The perfect place to end a European racing vacation is at one of the biggest, the baddest, some might even say the best racetrack in all of Europe. This is the Nürburgring, and while we're on the smaller sibling of the two-track mega complex here in Germany, it still has the same special aura of its big brother. This 15-turn, 5-kilometer twisting ribbon of asphalt is where we will contest the season finale of the GRIDLIFE iRacers FCP Euro Tour. Our previous two events at club courses in England were both won by World Challenge driver Kenton Cook, but not without strong efforts from others in the field. However, the odds may be in Cook's favor as we jump into the cockpit of GT4 machinery, cars in which Kenton has extensive experience. Welcome to GRIDLIFE Live. My name's Kyle Heyer, joined by Tom O'Gorman tonight for the season finale of the GRIDLIFE iRacers FCP Euro Tour. Of course, FCP Euro, every part you buy is guaranteed for life. Tom, welcome back to the Nürburgring over in Germany for our final race of this three-round series, and we're going to kick it off at a Formula One racetrack with some GT4 cars.
Yeah, this has been an awesome series to enjoy, and this is an exciting round for multiple reasons. The first of which, I must say, is that this is our very first broadcast from Kyle and I's new apartment here in Chicago. We're actually sitting side by side. We're in our broadcast booth in the actual apartment, and it's great to be with you, Kyle, but that's not quite as exciting as what we got going on here tonight. This is our final round for the FCP Euro Tour in iRacing. We kind of left the comfort zone a little bit last week. We raced rally cars at Oulton Park. If you missed that broadcast, totally worth watching. I was lucky enough to get to race myself, but I'm back in the booth with you this week and back looking at some more familiar sights. We're racing race cars on racetracks that people know, and this week it's those GT4 GT4 GT cars at the Nürburgring.
So we've got a couple races coming up for you tonight. If you're not familiar with the format, again, it's sort of a knockout-style qualifying format. Up to 120 drivers can attempt to qualify in, but they all have to race their way in on time. Then we get to qualify them via heats. We're going to split the top 60 drivers into two heats of 30, the top 15 of which from each heat will move on to the feature race of 40, and then the bottom 15 in each of those races will battle for only 10 spots in a last-chance qualifier to move on to the main event at the end of the night. And of course, this is our GRIDLIFE iRacers competition format, which we've been using for a couple seasons now, and it always puts the focus back a little ways from the top of the field and more so towards the mid-pack battles, which are typically where the meat of the competition is, Tom. And tonight, you're going to be able to follow along with that on the the right-hand side of the screen. We'll have graphics to show you where those battles are on the racetrack. So 6 minutes left here in qualifying. There's Cal Fortner in the number 13. He's been working hard to improve his pace the last couple weeks. All sorts of other drivers in here tonight. I did see that Peter Zhang is here. He's a normal time attack competitor in a Subaru. We've got Jackie Ding here as well, and there was quite a few jokes about BMWs and Toyotas being thrown around because Jackie is running the M4 here tonight. So I thought that was sort of funny. But Jackie's out here competing. He's also streaming live on YouTube, so if you head over to Jackie Ding's YouTube channel, you can follow along from a first-person perspective. James Oulton is here in the number 45. He is in one of the Porsche Caymans. And now the dichotomy of these two cars, Tom, Porsche Cayman versus BMW M4 GT4, two very different platforms accomplishing the same thing.
Yeah, we should talk about what that means. Tonight is our first time that we're seeing multi-make racing, I think potentially in GRIDLIFE iRacers history. I don't know that we've ever actually had multi-make in the same race at the same time, but tonight we're racing GT4 cars. We have the BMW M4 GT4, which you're watching now, and we also have the Porsche Cayman 718 GT4. There's Paul Darling's version. So we have those two different cars, and they handle this track very differently, but what's been really fun to watch over the last couple of days through practice is the drivers making the choice of which car they want to drive. We have the luxury here in the sim world of you don't have to buy both and figure it out. You can go, take them for a spin and see which one you want. So it's a much more economical way to come enjoy both of these cars. But the BMW tends to be a faster car in a straight line. It's a little more powerful, obviously front engine and rear wheel drive. It's not the best off of some slower corners. As we see Alex Artea in one of those slow corners here at the Nürburgring. The Cayman, on the other hand, a little more nimble, slower in a straight line, though. It's a little tougher to race when you're around the big BMWs, but in its own air, especially in qualifying that we're watching now, the Cayman certainly holds its own. So each car has its own personality, and different drivers have found that they like the certain personality of one car versus the other throughout this week.
There's Val DiPietro in a very nice-looking GRIDLIFE iRacers paint scheme. If you'd like to learn more about GRIDLIFE iRacers and how you can participate, you can visit the website at www.grid.life/gaming. And let me tell you, I can't say details yet, but if you are not in tune for what's happening in gaming in 2021, you certainly should put yourself on the list to receive that information. And you can do that again at grid.life/gaming. 2021 is going to be a big year for gaming. Got lots of plans yet to be announced, so make sure that you're tuned in as well as on social media and all the GRIDLIFE GridLife, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the places you can find those sorts of things. So qualifying underway here, Tom. This is basically going to split us into our odds and evens. If you're on the inside row, you're going to go to one heat. If you're on the outside row, you're going to go to another heat. And times across the board so far, Austin Cobb is at the top of the order. I mentioned in the intro, though, Kenton Cook runs an Aston Martin Vantage GT4 in World Challenge in real life. He's also driven the Audi R8 GT4. He's got extensive experience on those cars, and he just jumped right to the top of the board.
Yeah, he's kind of been the class of the field for the entire series. He's won everything that there is to win, including top qualifier in the open qualifying sessions. Qualified on pole for everything in the heat races and has won both heat races and features so far this season. So it's literally undefeated for that Pepto-Bismol pink BMW, whether it was the Volkswagen round or the Audi touring car round. He's been pretty dominant. He hasn't been unchallenged, though. I definitely think it's worth noting there's been a lot of quality competition. It's just that Kenton has managed to come out on top every single time. So he's opted for the BMW. I think we have a lot of drivers to watch in that Porsche Cayman with Austin Cobb, Paul Darling, both in those cars. Also, DJ Alessandrini, James Houghton's been quick. And then there's also one more driver I'm forgetting, but is absolutely a factor in the Porsches, and we'll find him, I'm sure, and it'll come to me.
Mike Leader joining us here tonight in the number 53, that car down in 19th with Falcon livery. We want to issue a huge thank you again to FCP Euro for coming on board and being with us this season. Of course, FCP Euro, if we wouldn't put it on our cars, we won't sell it to you, and that's a pretty good deal for me. Cook still at the top of the order, 2.5 tenths off is Austin Cobb. Down the rest of the order, we've got 38 drivers that have laid down some times. There's a few that have yet to do so, including Jeremy Swenson, who typically runs a very rowdy C5 Corvette? C6 Corvette in time attack, and right now has yet to put in a time.
And I remember, Jeremy's one worth noting, but Matt Corrins is the other Porsche driver I was going to call out. He was our winner from one of the heat races and did very well in the touring cars. I think he struggled a little bit to get up to speed in the rally cars. That was a little different, but now we're back in a proper race car, and he'll be fun to watch again.
So Matt Corrins right now in 5th, a 2:04.941, the best time. One thing we should point out is the chicane here. We're not using the tighter of the two chicanes. We're actually using the very fast left-right sweep, Tom, and that's going to maybe potentially take away a passing zone, but also a what I guess you guys would call a Larry zone. The opportunity for drivers to find themselves in trouble is probably going to be a little bit less without this tight section of racetrack there. Yeah,
so what it does for me is it definitely creates a different passing zone. So typically you would see drivers, woeing the car up and going for that much tighter chicane. I think that's the chicane they use in Formula 1 when they race here at the Nürburgring GP circuit. Right. We're running a faster flow through that you have to slow the car down much less for, but it actually is a much easier chicane to make a mistake in. So what it does is create a good passing opportunity in the last corner rather than creating a passing opportunity in the chicane itself. So I don't think it changes the number of passing zones. It just moves one of them a little bit further down the track.
I was going to say, it takes a lot of skill to beat Kenton Cook in qualifying. Christopher Roberts did just that in his Hoonigan liveried number 24, jumped straight to the top of the board by a 1/10.5, Tom. That came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and he was actually in the practice race last night. I had a blast racing with him, and I got to join in the practice, obviously. But he was super quick. He was super impressive. It's a name I wasn't familiar with, but I asked in our little group, who's this Chris guy? And Austin Cobb, who sits 5th in qualifying, goes, oh, that's one of my buddies from the Forza days, and he's gotten into iRacing, and he's joining us. So I don't think it was a surprise to Cobb and buddies that he's quick, but he was a new name for me, and it's cool to see him challenging a bunch of very familiar names.
So qualifying is complete, and looks like Christopher Roberts will be your pole sitter for this. Well, I guess not really the pole sitter. He will be on the front row for one of the two heat races, which we're about to begin. Our first heat race, they will be about 5 laps here, Tom. We're going to line up 30 drivers to go racing here tonight. So this first one's going to have Christopher Roberts, Alex LaRose, Austin Cobb, Rob Casera. There's some strong drivers in here. Any predictions on who gets this first one? And also, looking down the order at the 15th place cut line, who makes it and who doesn't?
Well, I think that's the key right now for me, is watching that 15th place battle, and also just how this multi-mark race starts to unfold. We have different strengths and weaknesses between these two cars. The shorter races tend to favor the BMW. It's a heavier car, it uses its tires more, but the standing start favors the mid-engine Porsche that tends to get off the line a little bit better. So we can definitely see drivers from even as far back as 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th in the practice races coming up and battling for podium positions. And every single position you gain in this race, it actually equals 2 positions in the feature race grid, because we're lumping all of those drivers back together.
So the field's gridding up here, just waiting on a few more drivers to join us. Jackie Ding, we already mentioned, there is his beautiful-looking Supra BMW combination car. He's going to start 14th right alongside Matt Christie and Jacob Bessemer. Up at the front, Christopher Roberts in the Hoonigan M4 is going to take us to the green flag. 5 laps here at the Nürburgring for our first of 2 heats before we LCQ and race tonight. Green flag flies, 10 minutes on the board, 5 laps to figure out who the top 15 are. And a great start for Alex LaRose.
Look at those mid-engine Porsches off the line and straight to the top for Alex LaRose, who's super fast in these Porsches on the long run. But Chris Roberts around the outside, holding it in the BMW. They're still side by side. And then it was another great start from Austin Cobb. The rest of the field fanning out, 1 car around.
That's Michael Gagnon, who's looped around. There's another car back there as well. Matt Murphy was the other car. It's chaos through the first sector here as we sweep on through double left-handers. Roberts is out front, LaRose into second, Cobb into third. Look at this chaos. Look at Jackie Ding all over the back of Kevin Zhu as we sweep on through.
I couldn't be more proud of how clean this start has been. And there's a driver I was just going to shout out to, Marc-Antoine Blaise, who had a killer start. He was up to 4th and goes around at the exit of turn 4, is rejoining the field now, and it looks like that was probably on his own. We might be able to find it, but he was battling for position with Rob Kucera, who was one of our fastest drivers when we raced in the MX5 series. He's just joining us this week for the first time, sits 4th, a little out of frame, but these first 3 are running away.
So Christopher Roberts leads by half a second down towards the hairpin that will launch us into the second half of this facility. David Aubrey in the 76, Jacob Bessemer behind him in that bright yellow M4. Peter Zhang in the number 30. He started this race in 16th. He's gained a spot. Look at the damage on the right front of that car. He's been into somebody or something. And I got to figure out where that puzzle piece fits. But so far, I would say minimal chaos, considering how many cars were here.
Yeah, they did a very good job, especially from a standing start into a hairpin. That's just asking for trouble, and they managed it pretty well. So at the front, Roberts is starting to get away with a couple of Caymans in tow, and that's a tough spot to be. The Caymans do not get very good runs on these fast BMWs. However, speaking of runs, Peter Zhang showing the nose up the inside of Bessemer, and they're going to let David Otterby get away just a little bit.
Jackie Ding up 5 spots already into 10th place now, trying to track down Kevin Zhu right in front of Andy Kusher in the 996. He's on the inside. Oh, Zhu's going to cut the chicane there a little bit, and Ding's going to take advantage. He'll sweep to driver's right and pull alongside into the final corner.
He might take the 86 with him. I think that is Derek King.
Yes.
In the Cayman, and he's got a bunch of BMWs swarming, and watch these BMWs. They get up on that loud pedal and just drive by the Porsches in the straight line. King's going to protect the inside. Ding all the way to the wall as well.
Into turn 1 now for the second time. We made it through there once. We're 3 wide in the middle. That's Derek King in the black Cayman. We're still 3 wide as we get down to the apex. The 3 swings around the outside. Great job there by Kevin Zhu.
Yeah, that was awesome stuff, and I think that's Vince Cernuto up the inside in the 555, or sorry, around the outside in the blue BMW. And he finally clears Derek King as well. Now this is where the Cayman comes back to life. These tight corners where that mid-engine power really gets to good use. He might be able to hold the outside here if he gets brave.
Nice job by the FCP Euro sponsored 555 of Vincent Cernuto. So he sweeps through and into 11th behind Otterby and Jacob Bessemer. Peter Zhang, they're side by side. Behind him, Johnston, Ravichandran Managaran also going door to door into the left-hander. There's a touch there. Zhang's off to the inside, gathers it back up. Here comes Ravi Managaran.
And this is all for 15th. This is the transfer spot. So a couple of these drivers are going to make it automatically to the feature. A couple of them will not. And they are hustling and bustling each other to try to get up into that 15th. The 43 car, I think it's the white and green BP sponsored car, currently has that spot. But he's going around the outside, trying to get around Jacob Bessemer, has to tuck back in line. No, look at that. Gets the power down, keeps it side by side. This track race is so cool.
Squeeze is up the outside and across the nose of the 50 car Bessemer. That puts Bessemer on the cut line. Zhang is out. He needs to gain 1 more spot to be in. There's Finian DeCuna behind as well. Sweeping out now on the straightaway here. We're through the Schumacher S and into the left-hand and right-hand combination. And Otterby slow up ahead. He might have some trouble here.
Yeah, he runs a little bit wide, and now it looks like Johnston might be able to get another position. Bessemer still showing the nose as well. We're riding along board with the first car out of the feature race right now. He's going to go to the last chance qualifier. That's Peter Zhang. He's trying to find a way through as these guys all hunting on the back straight.
And that flashing is not the issues that we had last week. That is actually internet connectivity for the 43 Johnson. He's going to be slow. That gives Peter Zhang an opportunity to squeeze up the inside, but he can't do it. He's going to have to back off as Bessemer and Johnson fight for 15th.
It's a great charge right now for Johnston. He's picked up a couple of positions just this lap. Now Zhang maybe gets the run he wanted. No, and look at the Porsches still struggling behind. I think that's King and Matt Christie is just in front. Maybe that's Ravi Managaran as well. All 3 of those Porsches just kind of stuck. It's just so tough to get around somebody. The other guy going through that right now is Alex LaRose at the front.
Vinny and Acuna dive up the inside, and there's more diving going on. Ravi Managaran to the apex, cuts down to the pole on the inside. He gets a spot or two maybe. But 15th place is still that BP-sponsored car. Ravi Managaran going the long way around. Peter Zhang wants in. He's off the racetrack into the turf.
And there's plenty of grip out there, but you're using a lot more distance, and you see it does not pay off. Zhang gets pinned around the outside, now tries to put the foot down, race to the apex. He cuts the curb a little bit. That's kosher. You can use that section of curbing. And once again, the BMWs reign supreme for this battle for 15th.
Great battling going on here, and Bessimer's got it. Peter Zhang wants it. It's 3.5 tenths of a second. Behind him, Finny Acuna squeezes on through Matt Christie. That's for 18th place. Still not in just yet. Has to gain a few more spots. Up front, no major battles. 3 tenths between the race leaders. Jackie Ding has moved his way up into 9th past Kevin Zhu, so that pass has been completed.
Looked like he had his hands full with Zhu all in the mirrors as they came out of the hairpin, but we're still watching this awesome battle for 15th. And if you forgot, this matters because 15th and on up goes into the feature automatically, the feature race at the end of this event. Everybody else has to go to the last chance qualifier for one more chance to race it in.
Up front, though, Christopher Roberts in the 24 leads Alex LaRose and Austin Cobb. And it's an M4 followed by 2 Caymans, and we've seen actually remarkable parity between these two cars. You pointed out the advantages that each car has. Kenton said earlier that he thinks the M4 is the better car, but the Porsches are running pretty strong at the front too.
Yeah, I did a practice night each in both cars just to see for myself, so I could sound educated as I speak tonight. And definitely the BMW is the better race car in these short sprint races, but it does start to fall away in the 20-minute feature a little bit later into tonight. So the BMWs might look like they're having a cakewalk now. That's not necessarily going to be the case when we get to the longer races, but you're going to watch as we ride on board with Alex LaRose from 2nd place. Look at that BMW. When it gets the power down, it just starts to drive away a little bit more, which makes it so tough to pass.
A little bit wide on exit onto the turf. That stuff's a little bit slippery. You can use some of it. But LaRose is putting on the pressure, and this M4 is going to struggle the later we get in this race. These are still pretty short races, but if you attack too much with the rear tires on those M4s, you're going to lose pace compared to those Caymans. And it's a 3-way fight for the race lead. Back for 15th place. Peter Zhang is now the transfer car, and it's getting rowdy here.
Ooh, and it's David Otterby that actually dropped a bunch of positions. He's the kind of like baby puke yellow car, a couple of positions back. He was in front of this battle when we started this lap, so he's had some issues and somehow has dropped way out, not only of the top 15, but out of the feature race positions.
So that puts Peter Zhang on the chopping block. Ravi Managaran is in that kind of Gulf livery looking Cayman running in 16th. He's the odd man out. Remember, they get a second lifeline. That is the LCQ later tonight. The bottom 15 from each of those heats will combine in one final attempt. Only the top 10 will move on in that race. You don't want to be stuck there. That's a lot of risk.
So right now, the blue BMW, a couple of cars up from who we watch now, that is 15th. Everybody else is looking to get into that top 15. So Peter Zhang was out for a long time. He's now in, and he's got a mirror full of a bunch of hungry BMWs and Porsches behind.
Up front, though, Christopher Roberts. Look at this. 3 drivers all nose to tail. M4, Cayman. Next time by will be the white flag sweeping through the faster portions of this racetrack. Roberts seems like he's struggling in the slower sectors, and those Caymans tuck right in the draft here in the faster parts.
And this is where the Caymans are really good. They're good through the chicane, and they're good on the brakes into the final corner. If LaRose or Cobb can get a run, they might be able to show the nose. The pressure to do so is not quite so high here in this heat race for these drivers. They're all making it to the feature, and while Roberts will be first, LaRose would be third, and Cobb would be 5th on the grid, they're still in, which is good, which means you need to be a little bit careful about making moves here in these heats. You don't want to make a big mistake and end up out.
So the front 3 continue to battle for position. Peter Zhang now has Ravi Managaran right on his tailpipes as they come out of the final corner. It's 5 more kilometers. That's about 3.2 miles for the Freedom Units comparison here across the line. One more time around for Ravi Managaran to get in and lock his way into the feature up the road. Bessemer and Johnson throwing the blocks into turn 1.
I was going to say he may get this one just off of the generosity of others or the misfortune of others, maybe some Schadenfreude if these two get into each other. Bessemer's looking racy as he's got a complete grill full of that BP-sponsored car.
They're going to look up the inside, a shallow entry. This corner is so tight, it's all mechanical grip. The door opens. Can't slot the car in it, though. The M4 is not a small car, and he'll have to try again.
These guys have all dropped off the back of the top 10 pretty well. Looks like there's a great battle happening between Waxman, Houghton, and Kutcher for 6th, 7th, and 8th. There they are, and no surprise, it's a BMW with a mirror full of Porsche. Although Oulton up the inside goes for the position and actually makes it through on Ido Waxman, got the Valvoline driver up to 5th.
Great dive there. I was going to put the attention back on second place as they sweep back through, as there is a battle going on for that position as well. But side by side again for Howden and Waxman through the Schumacher S.
Ooh, and unfortunately, in iRacing, if you cut through that curb, it is a cut penalty. He's going to have to slow down and bleed off a little bit of time. That's what he's doing actively right now. You're going to see that Valvoline car slow down on purpose until he bleeds off that 1 second penalty. That's kind of heartbreaking because that was a great move.
Here we go for second place now. Austin Cobb and Alex LaRose. This is for P2. Going to sweep to the right. Can they run side by side through here? Dorse gets slammed. Cobb slides to the driver's left area. Going to have to cut the curb here. Side by side, there's a touch. LaRose gets slammed over the curb, keeps it on course. Roberts, though, will come on through, and as long as he accelerates cleanly out of the final corner, he will win the first heat. Cobb second. LaRose, damaged and bruised, will come home in third. The battle for 15th, though, still under attack. Peter Zhang, no, he's all on his own now. 8/10 back for Ravi Managaran, and from Ravi on back, they're going to have to duke it out in the LCQ.
Yeah, this battle was hot and heavy for the first couple of laps. It's simmered since, and it looks like Peter Zhang is going to be able to hold off. Again, as long as he gets a clean exit, watch this BMW come up on that turbo and start to pull away. That's the problem the Porsche has here in these short races, but it is going to be Peter Zhang is the final transfer driver into the feature race.
So drivers that missed out will have to fight it out in the LCQ. Of course, Ravi Managaran, Finian D'Cunha, notable. Marc-Antoine Blaise, who is up front. David Otterbury finishes 21st. Matt Murphy, Eric Pennington, and a few more drivers, all with not the finish that they were looking for or potentially deserved. Let's have a look at our race results real quickly before they tick on over to heat number 2. There's your top 10. Of course, Jackie Ding, great drive for him, 14th to 9th. And looking on down, there's more than this. 15th place, Peter Zhang is the last driver that will cycle on through. We'll have to go back around again to pick up the rest of the field. There we are. And those are the drivers that are eliminated. They will get to fight out one more opportunity in the LCQ, which will be up here after our second heat race here in just a few moments. We're going to step away for a brief moment. We'll be back with your second heat here for the GRIDLIFE iRacers FCP Euro Tour. We'll be right back.
Welcome to FCP Euro. Here we are in the Motorsport Garage. This is where we house our 2 Volkswagen GTI TCRs, as well as our C300 Endurance Racer right behind me. Now what's special about this space is this is actually part of our headquarters. So right to the right we have our retail center where enthusiasts come in every day to come pick up the parts they need to repair their European car. And what's even better is right behind us is our distribution center. This is where thousands of packages are picked, packed, and shipped every single day to enthusiasts like you around the world. Now, this year has been a little different for us. Due to COVID, we've stayed safe and we've stayed here and we haven't participated in events. That said, we have tried to participate from afar, either digitally or dipping our toes into e-racing and other things like that. Now, next year, we cannot wait to get back out into events and meet all of you in person. So if you just want to browse parts for your European car, or you want to learn more about our motorsports team, please head over to fcpeuro.com.
Back live here on GRIDLIFE Live. Again, my name's Kyle Heyer, joined by Tom O'Gorman for the third and final round of the GRIDLIFE iRacers FCP Euro Tour, getting ready for our second bracket of the night. I forgot to change this from DJ. I'm sorry, Tom. But, of course, we're in Nürburgring, Germany for the final round of the season. Again, we are competing in our second of 3 main races tonight. Of course, we've got the LCQ kind of in between. But again, we're about to eliminate 15 more drivers, and this field is very, very stacked. Let's have a look here at our starting lineup on the left-hand side of the screen. Kenton Cook in the 35 car, DJ Alessandrini, Paul Darling, Matt Corns, David Santel, Matthew Morhart, Jackson Robillard from Global MX5. Mike Leader is here. This is a really strong top 10.
Yeah, they're both races. You look down the list and you think, oh, they're in there. Oh, and they're in there. Oh, and that guy's in there. Man, this race is going to be great, and this one's going to be really fun at the front. I think we may see more of the same with that BMW Porsche dynamic. But watch these Porsches off the line. There's 3 of them going to swarm Kenton Cook when the lights go green. DJ Alessandrini gets a good launch, and they're going to go side by side immediately.
Green flag is in the air for our second bracket of the evening. Look at Paul Darling tracking over to the right. Will he make a dive up the inside into the first corner? In the background, there's a green and yellow car that's going to sneak up through. I don't have a number on that car. And through turn number 1. Nicely done by everybody. I think we got through.
I'm super impressed. 1 car goes around. That's Alex Artea. It looks like goes for a roll as well. 3 cars caught up. Cal Fortner's in it once again. I think Cal's yet to get through a heat race start without getting collected some way or somehow. But at the front, Kenton Cook manages to defend from the outside on pole. DJ Alessandrini's glued to the back bumper. Paul Darling's with him too, as is Matt Corrence. Then David Santel's the next BMW in the road. That's going to be the black and orange Dirtfish car.
So Cal Fortner was also caught up in that. He's just been down on his luck in this series. This has not gone very well for him. In the background, you see Matthew Morehart in the 51 car. That, I believe, is the orange machine. No, that's actually the yellow car. David Santel is in the orange Dirtfish car. Jackson Robillard, again, I mentioned he's from Global MX-5. A bit of a change of pace this week, running the 98 Cayman. And side by side for 5th in front of him.
Easy cheese versus Dirtfish. Look at that. Morehart had a little bit of a look up the inside, but the outside reigns supreme. David Santel takes the position back and will get a good run through this really fast chicane. It's super tough to get that chicane right on cold tires, but it looks like most people are through. A little further back, the Falcon livery. I think that's on Marcus Luttrell's car, or maybe Mike Leader. And then Luttrell now from 9 Lives Racing defending on
Alex
Is
Ho.
that Alex Ho?
It is.
New this week to the series.
Jimmy Kenevin behind him in the 11th place car. Let's jump back to 15th. It's Ryan Carwile and Steve Luca in the 55. This is your transfer position. As of now, that red and white Cayman is in. That Falcon M4 is out. So they're going to try to trade positions here. The Cayman cheats over a little bit, but here comes the M4 up the inside. Luca wants the spot.
This is the move Austin Cobb pulled off, but look at the Cayman around the outside. Almost holds it, but Luca takes it with the straight line speed of that BMW in the 21. Might also go with him. Now Carwile to the pit lane for some reason is going to come down, and that will basically lock him completely out of advancing to the feature. He'll be in the LCQ for sure, but now Swenson is potentially on the bubble as he's looking at the back of Steve Luca. 2 time attack competitors from the real life now battling to get into the feature.
And that could have been a jump start penalty, perhaps. Up the road, there's a big scramble of Caymans down into the first corner. Look at Swenson making a dive, and that's for a transfer spot. He's there. Move Swenson to the transfer position and onto the feature if he can hang on to it from here on out.
Seeing a lot more Caymans in this race, however that worked out, and they're having a good time racing against one another. It almost looks like Spec Cayman here in the bottom half of the top 15. Jeremy Kenevin leads them right now, but Swenson is on a charge. Maybe he didn't have the qualifying he wanted. He's typically one of the top qualifiers that we see. Definitely used to that format in time attack world, but now gets a run on the 49, and the 917 comes across the nose in that iconic pink pig livery. Deep on the brakes, and Swenson picks up another spot.
He's going to climb up on the curb. He's still side by side with that other car to his inside. I think, is that Gortson? No. Yes, it is Gortson in the 49 car. And Swenson's going to go the long way around, climb up on the curbing on corner exit. Gortson kind of warping around a little bit, but look at Swenson right on the edge of the racetrack there going side by side.
And this is all in the top 15. The Falcon livery BMW hunting in the background. He is 16th. That's Steve Luca. So whoever ends up in that position is going to be the first man out. He sits in that transfer spot right now. Cook has still got his hands full of Alessandrini at the front.
Really fun to watch Swenson try to squeeze his way through these areas here as the car's kind of wandering. There's a lot of left-right combinations here, and drivers will just like that up the inside. Luca makes a dive. Can he hold it? The 49's going to spin. Was Swenson get involved? Yes, he does.
Oh, it's unfortunate because Swenson saw it coming. He had backed out and was going to be the big beneficiary of that whole incident. We'll take a quick look at it, but Luca, I think, was not quite expecting Swenson to go for the move. They both went for it. Swenson tried to check up and tuck between all of them. Watch this, and then I think actually looks like Gortson turned himself down on the nose of Swenson. Just kind of too many cars for too little space.
Yeah, that was a dramatic one there, but that's going to shift the goalposts around a little bit. Thomas Languille in the number 17 is going to be in your transfer position. Valentine Pietro just up the road is currently in. Nick Nelson, though, in that plaid Cayman, he wants in. He's going to drive right up to the rear tailpipes of that yellow 17.
Yeah, just that quick. This whole race changes, and now this is the battle for the transfer spot. And we're lucky we get to see all those drivers who were just battling once more in the LCQ, battling even harder. But cars exiting the pit lane. We're starting lap 3 of 5, and that Tartan Cayman is the first car out.
Look at that big dive up there for Thomas in the number 17. Looks like DiPietro is going to take a shortcut there. Anthony Nguyen is approaching very quickly in his number 1 Cayman. 663 is right there, but the nose got chopped, and that's going to bring Nguyen right into the mix here.
See how easy it is to just wash wide in that super tight corner. It doesn't look that tight when you're coming in, but decreases down and is so slow. You got to get the car into that corner to get out of this, what becomes a pretty significant straightaway. And unfortunately, it looks like the BMW clinging onto the back of this battle pushed wide and dropped off the back just a bit, which is a relief for the 663. He can focus forward and try to get into the top 15.
Some damage on the left front of that 663. You see the camber of that whole left front tire is kind of knocked out of whack, so he's had a bit of contact somewhere. and still has the opportunity to work his way in, but he's going to have to get by one of these two M4s if he wants to be in and keep the M4 behind him out. He's a Cayman without a whole lot of buddies around him right now.
Yeah, this has been a constant theme tonight, has been BMWs with mirrors full of Caymans, and I can't wait to see in the feature once the tire starts to wear a little bit more what starts to happen. Right now at the front, Kenton Cook in the BMW defending DJ Alessandrini, who's having a little bit of a hard time staying with him. It's ebbing and flowing within a half second though. Darling, Corrins have all dropped off the back just a bit in those Caymans, and then the battle between Santel and Morehart looks pretty good. That's going to be another BMW battle, but Cook leads coming towards starting lap 4.
And this time through will be 2 laps to go for the race leader. Santel and Morehart, they are separated by only a car length and a half or so. Jackson Robillard staying in touch as well in that Cayman in the background. But don't count him out of maybe grabbing a top 5. Val DiPietro going the long way around to Nick Nelson. He's lost a couple spots. And this might mean that Val is on the cut line here, with Nelson going to sweep. Val's in front of Nelson. It's Anthony Wynn that's caught them, and he's going to sweep out to the inside. He wants to be in this race.
Yeah, Wynn is going for it. He was the one had dropped off of this battle just a little bit the last lap, but he's in super deep. Whoa, does DiPietro see him coming? Yes, he does. Leaves the door open, and luckily for Wynn, he was kind of gifted some space to gain 2 positions in that exchange, and unfortunately for Nelson, now he's one position further away from the transfer spot.
So DiPietro is now on the outside looking in. He needs to get back by that number 1 Cayman to get into the feature race without having to contest in the LCQ. Look at Sean Greeley behind. Gortson working his way back forward, and Swenson in 21st. He's not that far away either. I'm sure he'd like to have a chance to get his way back in.
Yeah, somehow this battle's turned into about an 8-car strong battle, and this is all for pretty much the transfer spot. So Swenson's racing his way back forward. Not a ton of damage on that 21 car, which is good news for him. And look at this, Wynn runs wide, and now DiPietro's having a look back at him. They're side by side, headed down towards the banked carousel, and Nelson's trying as well.
Yeah, Wynn again is that white, black, and red BMW right in front. DiPietro in behind, needs to get in. There's a spin. There's one car sideways. I think that was Greeley they got turned. He's gotten it straightened back out, albeit with some damage. And Swenson is charging forward. He only has to get up another 100 yards or so, and he's in. Big damage on Gortson's Cayman.
Yeah, Gortson has been involved in 2 incidents now. Looks like Gortson might have gotten into the back of that BMW that went for a spin. Swenson tries to the outside. Swenson in the black Cayman. He's going to pinch down to the apex and take that position away. With all that exchange, they've dropped away from the transfer battle. But both cars in front have also lost touch. That's the battle between the two of them. They're side by side though, Nelson and DiPietro.
Oh, big curb jump for the 663. Again, this is all just for the privilege of getting to run down the car in front of them. It's Anthony Wynn, who's actually the transfer car. So right now, as they battle amongst themselves, they might lock each other out of having the opportunity to run him down. As they battle amongst themselves, car off in the background, Nathan Adler has had an issue.
Worth mentioning, this battle we're watching now is actually it may not be for the transfer spot, but it is for the front row of the LCQ, which is a safe place to be. If you want to start on the front row, you're definitely doing yourself favors, but the BMW comes back alive. The yellow car of DiPietro closes the door coming into the braking zone, starting the white flag lap for 16th and 17th.
See if Nelson can pull a crossover here, but there's just so much left-right combinations. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, while that battle happens, Alessandrini's brought his kind of teal and orange Cayman right to the tailpipes of Kenton Cook, who's won both rounds so far, the main feature race. And he's leading the points here, Tom. All he's got to do is essentially finish in the top 3. He's got it. Alessandrini's in tight.
That was really close. He straightened his hands up and got the car to stop, but even gets a good run. Look at the mid-engine Porsche putting power down. He's almost got a run up the inside, cuts across, and is going to try to show the nose into the Schumacher chicane. I think that's the Schumacher chicane. And unfortunately, it's not going to work for him. He's going to drop multiple car lengths off the back of the pink BMW of Cook, leading the race. But Alessandrini, we're getting a foreshadowing. Oh, go ahead.
Paul Darling and Matt Corrins. Actually, that's it is Matt Corrins in the number 42 Cayman. They're side by side in the left-right combination. Darling continues to hang on in the background. You see Morehart and Santel. They're side by side. Robillard watching from 7th. He'd like to climb up a spot or 2.
Yeah, great battles across all these. And what I was going to say is we're seeing a foreshadowing of what happens when the BMW starts to run its tires off. You see Cook was having a hard time shaking Alessandrini. And when these races get twice as long, whoa, another cut across. That's a familiar sight of an Apex V2R car going for a dive in the final chicane, but unfortunately, Corrins does not pull off the move that Austin Cobb was able to, and will remain 4th right now.
Kenton Cook out of the final corner to the line. Drag race here, but Cook will win it with the M4 power. He wins bracket number 2. Alessandrini 2nd, then Paul Darling, Matt Corrins, Matthew Morehart 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Santel 6th, Robillard in 7th, now for 15th place. Anthony Wen in that number 1 car did a great job climbing forward from his starting position of 26, up 11 spots to earn his way into the feature race. That was a strong climb. Val DiPietro and Swenson are just going to miss it. I say Swenson is my pick to win the LCQ.
Yeah, he's going to be in a really good spot starting on the second row. The yellow BMW of DiPietro will start on the front row of the LCQ, finishing there in 16th. And that will actually be the inside line for turn 1, which is even better news.
So the rest of the field coming across the line, and we'll go over your race results here before we cut to another very brief break. Here's a look at the top of the order. Actually, that's page number 2. Let's move on back to the actual top of the order. Kenton Cook, Alessandrini, Paul Darling. Those are 3 very familiar names we'll see probably later tonight. Then Matt Corrins, Matthew Morehart, Santel, Robillard, Luttrell, Leader, and Kennevan all in. So are Colin McHugh, Alexander Ho, Drew Cleaver, Thomas Langui, and Anthony Wen are all in. DiPietro on down are out of the race. They will have to fight their way into the top 10 in the LCQ. In just a moment, we'll be right back with you after this quick word from FCP Euro. Back live here on GridLife Live for our last chance qualifier. The top 10 will earn their way into the feature race at the end of the night. And there are your top 10 right now on the screen. I can actually show you here. These top 10 are the drivers that if they finish where they start, they will move on to the feature, Tom. Everybody from Audebris on down will have to earn their way in, and that is going to be a tricky challenge tonight.
Yeah, you'll notice a lot of the names there on the left side have had exciting nights so far if you've been with us the whole time, and that tends to be the case for the drivers who are in the last chance qualifier, but it's a good starting position for Ravi Monagaran and Val DiPietro on the front row. Red lights are on for the standing start of the LCQ.
On board with Ravi Monagaran, green flag in the air, and they're off using the torque out of the rear wheels. They're going to be driving down towards turn number 1. And 3 wide already. There's DiPietro, who just missed out. Swenson in the middle, 3 wide. Look at this mess heading down into the first corner.
Swenson's going to the apex for the lead. He's going to not quite make it on Monagaran, but it's a rough start for DiPietro. Look at these drivers streaming through. This is the cleanest we've been all evening.
Don't speak too soon.
Close. David Otobre looks like he might have gotten turned. A couple of cars losing it on cold tires. But for the most part, we stay pointed the right way. Looks like a little more damage to Alex Artea's car as well, but this is around the outside, right around that 10th position. This is critical at this point.
Ray Hilbert spun off to drivers right there. Is Joseph Dale's car? It looks a whole lot like Adam Jabbay's Civic, doesn't it?
It is. They're both inspired by one of the BMW cars that raced at Le Mans a couple of years back, kind of that Warp Speed art car look. But at the front, it's a little bit of a breakaway. Jeremy Swenson, as you called, your pick to win the LCQ. He's already in the lead, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him start to pull away from Ravi Monagaran, as he is now. And those two have broken free with Val DiPietro. The transfer spot in this race, don't forget, that's 10th.
Yeah, it's only P10 now, so Luca on forward are in, but here comes Joseph Dale on the outside, a little bit tracking wide. David Schwartz, who I believe runs World Challenge BMWs in real life in the touring car category, or maybe I'm thinking of a different driver.
You're thinking Johann Schwartz.
That's what I'm thinking of, Schwartz.
Some credits at the BMW
I
race
tried.
car.
That's what I was thinking.
So he's close right now. Steve Luca in the Falcon livery car, the teal nose coming at us. That is the last driver in. The Warp Speed art car of Dale and Schwartz just behind. Those drivers are both out. Everybody that is out in this race is done for the night before we head to the top 40 feature.
Tracking out to the gravel trap, some dirt flying as we head down the back straightaway for the first time. A couple drivers have already ended their race. Finian D'Acuna, slow start for him. He runs 24th after some dramas in the early moments. Look at Marc-Antoine Blaise, big dive. That's going to be a huge cut. We're not even close there for Marc-Antoine Blaise. And here comes Boley. Whoa, there's someone on the dirt there on the inside. I think that is the 15 car.
A full send moment. Boley, these guys all in the top 10, so they really should settle down and just get their way into the feature and then go crazy. But it's been a rough night for Marc-Antoine Blaise. He was up in the top 5 of his heat race, went for a big spin. It looks like he's still struggling to keep that car where it needs to be on the track. Side by side, deep into turn 1.
Oh,
with the
behind him.
car.
Big dive. Boley gets taken out. That's Matt Christie in the 550. Somebody else gets slammed. That was, I believe, Steve Luca that walloped Marc-Antoine Blaise at the exit at turn number 1, and he's picked up some significant left front damage on that car. You see the mark there, and that's going to reshuffle the deck here. 10th place now. Marc-Antoine Blaise is Now the last driver in, he's got Matt Christie behind, who triggered that whole incident. And there's Cal Fortner fighting from 12th place.
Frantic stuff here on the second lap of the LCQ. After Matt Christie went bowling into turn 1. Now goes for another big ride on the dirt, caught the grass on the way in, trying to save it. Unfortunately, Cal Fortner nowhere to go, gets collected from behind as well and sent big time into the grass.
And he's going to meet the barrier again, and Cal Fortner's night will likely be over. That is so frustrating. He tried to miss it, just couldn't figure out how to get around it. And that will, again, leave the 52 car Marc-Antoine Blaise as the top 10 driver that will cycle on through and make it to the feature. Ryan Carwile is the odd man out right now. Everyone from him on back will miss the main event for tonight.
Carwile had a trip to the pit lane in his heat race, which means he's raced his way back from towards the back of this LCQ. Yeah, look at that, 20th up to 11th for the 20 car, and Carwile tends to end up in exciting positions in these GRIDLIFE heat races. Somehow, some way, he's always in an exciting place, and tonight, he's the driver on the chase of this battle for 10th.
Marc-Antoine Blaise wants a spot. He's going to spin. Too much. He had a big gap there, Tom, and he just threw it away, being a little bit too aggressive. That's going to be it for the night. That moves Gertzen in the 49 up into a spot. There's a car off. That's Nathan Adler. He was the one that had contact, so he will drop out of it as well. So 2 Caymans taken out of the mix, puts Gertzen in, and Carwile as well is now going to cycle into 9th.
And now the battle, yeah, it's pretty calm for the top 10. There's a big gap back to Luca Tucciarone, who's in a black and pink BMW a little further back, headed there. And they've got a long way to go to get back up to the top 10.
There's Kevin Lee in the number 18 car, Matt Murphy in the 136. That's for 13th place. Up at the front, no major battles. Swenson leading by almost 4 seconds. And battle for 4th is pretty good. Here comes Matt Murphy looking up the inside of Kevin Lee. That Kevin Lee's in the student driver Cayman on the brakes for turn number 1.
Yeah, looks like Alex Carty and Nick Nelson having a good battle for 4th. Unfortunately, the transfer spot is probably a nothing burger at this point unless they get exciting again. But there is that battle. Alex Carty in the Mountain Dew BMW escaped the big incident in turn 1 last lap and has now worked his way up a couple of more positions. Nick Nelson, who was on the charge late last race, still has his sights forward. Whoa, Steve Luca takes him out, grabs the grass on the way into that chicane, and they both go for a big spin. That's a familiar incident.
Oh, right back across the racetrack, right in front of Carwile and Luca Tucciarone. Actually, that's Steve Luca, rather. And both those cars are going to take a little while to get back on course, and they're both going to be out. That moves the cut line down to Duncan James in the number 60 car. That, I believe, is that white Cayman in the backdrop? No, it's actually the black one right there. Kevin Lee has an opportunity to work his way in.
Yeah, this is the LCQ no one wants to make the feature in. I think they keep taking each other out of the top 10 when they're pretty much locked in. But now we get to enjoy a 2.5 lap battle for this position. Duncan James, the black Cayman that we're watching, the back bumper up from Kevin Lee. The black one is in, the yellow car is out. So Kevin Lee wants to get this position away from Duncan James. Takes a look up the inside. Nothing this time through.
It says, please be patient on the fender of that car. I don't think there's a lot of patience going through Kevin Lee right now. He wants that spot. He needs that spot. He's going to have 2 laps to get it done. Big slide on corner exit. And he can't make too many mistakes because there's a whole field of hungry Caymans and BMWs behind him that would like to take that spot.
They're starting to lose touch a little bit from Luca Tucciarone. Whoa, a big ride for Matt Murphy, who's just a little behind that one. Went way wide through that little kink. But this battle between the black and yellow cars, that's Duncan James in the 10th and Kevin Lee in 11th. This is the position that matters the most on the track right now.
And back onto the front straightaway here. Good drive off for Kevin Lee. 2 laps to go in our last chance qualifier. Gertzen's going to hit pit lane, maybe a penalty, maybe damage. That's going to move the cut line down to Matt Murphy in the number 136, this white Cayman. He needs to catch the yellow car now.
Positions constantly changing. We got 2 to go this time through, and it's a big lunge up the inside. Duncan James gets the attack from Kevin Lee, who goes through and shuts the door, takes the position away. That's for 9th and 10th, and that exchange has allowed Matt Murphy to get a little bit closer.
Nicely done by Kevin Lee to get that pass done, and Matt Murphy's got his hands full of Charles Boley, who's going to try to go the long way around. And Boley's not slow right now. He's running laps on par with the top 5, so he could, in theory, work his way forward. Murphy runs wide, keeps him behind him for now.
Yeah, I would definitely keep an eye on the 15 car, that kind of periwinkle blue. Charles Boley, he's quick, and if he can get by Matt Murphy, he might be able to run down Duncan James and Kevin Lee, who are just a couple of car lengths ahead, but he's got one problem right now, and it's that white Cayman just in front of him.
Up in 5th place, Joseph Dale and David Schwartz battling for the top 5 spot. And have a look at where these guys started. Joseph Dale 13th to 5th, David Schwartz 12th to 6th. Both drivers that have climbed their way forward and haven't found too much trouble. It's easy to find here at the Nürburgring with so many tight corners. Ryan Carwile, 20th to 7th, plus 13. Such a huge gain for him.
That's a great recovery from what was either a jump start or potentially an admin penalty for hitting somebody in his heat race, but a great charge back, and he'll continue to do that into the feature race, I suspect, as if he finishes where he stands now, he will start 37th out of 40 there in that feature race.
It seems like a lot of work to start 37th, but that's the way it be with GridLife as competitive as it is, even in the gaming world. 2.5 seconds between our 10th and 11th drivers, so no transfer battle, but for 11th place, it is a scramble. Boley, Murphy, and Webster in the BMW.
Boley's gotten through. He's got one more lap to try to make this thing happen. It's got to be really quick, almost a qualifying level pace, but he might be able to start to run down Duncan James. It took him a little too long to get by Matt Murphy, and now Murphy's got some problems. It's Lucas Webster who's trying the outside and maybe back to the inside in that FCP Euro BMW.
He might need some new fenders or some new headlights. Get them from FCP Euro and get a lifetime warranty, even if they're wear parts. And I think that car is looking pretty worn out to me, Tom. But one more lap and you can put that thing to rest.
A little wore out, but you see he started 23rd. He's up to 13th, so maybe the wear is worthwhile. He's trying for one more, but goes for a big slide into turn 2. This is a really awkward off-camber rise and then fall down into turn 3, the corner that's always slower than you want it to be. Tries to get the nose in, and look at the BMW squirming for grip from the drone shot here.
Fouled overhead as we're going to sweep on over. Lucas Webster and Matt Murphy's battle down towards the left-hand corner as the M4 closes on the brakes. Again, this is really a battle just for fun at this point. They're not going to get their way in unless there's 3 cars that wreck up the road.
Scanning down the list, it looks like Val Di Pietro might have made a mistake, and all of a sudden he's got a ton of pressure from Alex Carty for 3rd. Yeah, look at that. BMWs now on top of each other. They were a little further apart the last time we saw them.
And closing in is Alex Cartier in that number 6 Mountain Dew sponsored car. Up the road, though, Jeremy Swenson putting on a clinic here. It's all going to be for about a 31st starting position.
Yeah, I suspect this is a case of qualifying not what he wanted. Oh, Charles Boley, who was the car we were going to watch, goes pushing too hard, was trying to make it into the top 10. You know, no guilt there. He's full send for the last chance that he's got. That's why they call it the last chance qualifier. Unfortunately, it's not going to pay off for him, which means we're going to have a different driver in that 11th spot, but the top 10 doesn't change. And Jeremy Swenson, maybe a case of not the qualifying you want, but recovering as well as you can, and wins the last chance qualifier to earn 31st on the grid in the feature race.
Ravi Managaran, nice job there. 2nd place, Val Di Pietro 3rd. Carte, Schwartz, Dale, Carwile, Tuchiron, Kevin Lee, and Duncan James are going to be the ones that earn their way in from Lucas Webster on back. Valiant efforts, Tom, but they're not going to make it in. They will have to be on the sidelines for the final race of the season. Now remember that this is not the end of GridLife Gaming at all. This is the end for the 2020 year. 2021 is going to be a very big year, so make sure that you're following GridLife on the social media networks and check out www.grid.life/gaming to stay in tune and in touch with what's happening for next year in the gaming space. Here's a quick look at your race results. And we'll get you ready to go for our feature race here in just a moment. Actually, we're going to take over to it right now. We'll be back in just a moment. It's the final race of the season. It's the final race of the night in the GRIDLIFE iRacers FCP Euro Tour. Welcome back to GridLife Live. My name's Kyle Heyer, joined by Tom O'Gorman for the final race. And Kenton Cook has swept both of these main events so far at Oulton Park and at Brands Hatch, respectively. But this is going to be a challenging one. He's got Christopher Roberts starting in front of him, and Roberts was faster than him in qualifying. So we watch all the battles in 15th. We watch the battles for 10th in the LCQ. Now we're going to watch a battle for the lead.
Yeah, the conversation changes from who finishes in that transfer spot to solely who finishes at the front. And over a season of 4 European cars, 3 European racetracks, it comes down to this. and it's a driver that we have not seen a ton of, but Christopher Roberts there starts on pole in his Hoonigan liveried BMW M4 GT4. Something I'll point out before things get a little too frantic, this race is twice as long. The previous races have been 10 minutes, this one's 20, and that's just long enough that those rear tires on the BMW start to cry for a little bit of help towards the last half of this race. So yes, it's BMWs on the front row, but keep an eye on those Caymans because there's a lot of fast drivers in them, starting with Austin Cobb and DJ Alessandrini starting in the second row.
All right, so the starting lineup will be on the left-hand side of your screen, and we're only going to be able to look at it for a brief 10 seconds or so because we're about to go racing here tonight. Again, 10 laps, about 20 minutes worth of racing. And here we go. Gridding up, Christopher Roberts, Kenton Cook, who is a World Challenge driver, has swept both races so far. Austin Cobb, DJ Alessandrini starting third and fourth. Alex LaRose, Paul Darling, and more behind them. The field 40 cars strong, going green for GRIDLIFE iRacers FCP Euro Tour. And we're racing from the Nurburgring. Green flag flies, and we're racing down to turn number one. A great start for the 24.
Look at the start from Austin Cobb, though. There's going to be 3 wide with Kenton Cook, Alessandrini, and Cobb. Cook on the inside, the pink BMW, but it's a full lead for Chris Roberts. And now we are fanning the entire field out into turn 1. Look at the chaos, but we're all pointed the right way so far. A knock on wood.
I think we've made it. Christopher Roberts should be the one that pops out the other side of this. There he is. Kenton Cook in second. Alessandrini, LaRose, Cobb, and more. Only one spin. Drew Cleaver in the very background has gone for a loop. As the rest of the field still double file. The Dirtfish car, that's Santel. There's a car around in the background. I didn't catch who that was. They're going to lose a whole lot of spots, though.
Yeah, a couple of those BMWs right at the back, but look at the pressure already from Cook and the pink car on the back of Christopher Roberts at the front. Unfortunately, Austin Cobb had that killer launch, but he ended up pinned around the outside of turn 1, lost a couple of positions. Alex LaRose gained 1. Paul Darling was close. And then Matt Corrins is now teammates with Austin Cobb, is now much closer to his teammate. Look at Cobb sitting 5th.
Oh, the leader, Christopher Roberts, is going to spin right in front of the field.
Ooh.
And just like that, from pole, from hero down to 23rd, 24th, he's going to have to sit all the way out of this. That is disaster for Christopher Roberts. Right out of the lead. Just got too much in there, too much speed, Tom, and those tires not up to temperature just yet.
It's a really painful mistake to make, maybe just a little too hot on that first lap. He's been out of the car for about 25 minutes. Now we're side by side between 2 of our time attack favorites. James Houghton up the inside of Jackie Ding. The Valvoline car is Houghton. Ding in his classic livery of the Toyota Supra onto this BMW, and he's got a mirror full of Jackson Robillard in the 98 Cayman as well.
Towards the chicane for the first time, Jackie Ding all over the back of James Houghton. Houghton typically a competitor in the unlimited category. Jackie Ding and FCP Euro Street Mod left, right, nicely done. He's 13th right now after starting the race in 17th, so +4 for him. Jackson Robillard behind Andy Kushner and Mike Leader diving for positions back here as they come out of the front straight here.
Yeah, that was a big lunge from Robillard in the kind of tie-dye almost Cayman, but Jackie Ding sweeps back across. The power of the BMW takes the position back away. There's Houghton in the Valvoline car, set to sights on Ido Waxman, who's in the Hooters-sponsored BMW just in front.
Middle 3 wide with Kushner in the middle. There's Leader on the bottom, and Vincent Cernuto. Whoa, there's a big cut by Kevin Zhu. He just went for it, turned in, and just leapfrogged over the apex. That's not going to work. Cars spinning in the background. Jeremy Swenson, let's talk about him. He started in 31st. He's up to 25th and climbing.
Yeah, making his moves smart but consistent. Oh. Whoa, it's another big lunge. I think that's Alex Ho into the back of one of the Caymans. Takes a couple of them with. So these guys in the back, a little bit of bullying going on. A lot of bit of bullying, to be honest. This is looking a little sloppy from the back half of this field, but at the front, things are still clean. Cook holds the position over Alessandrini. LaRose is clinging on. It's a bunch of Caymans just waiting for the 10-minute mark for that BMW to start to fall away.
So 16 minutes and 50 seconds left to go. Rob Casera, Matthew Walbaum in the number 46. That's the car in the very brightly colored red and white car. Behind them, Nicholas Johnson, Vincent Cernuto. Cernuto's in the 555. That's that blue FCP Euro car. Derek King in the 86. We saw him battling earlier. He runs 18th after starting this race in 23rd.
See just how patient these drivers have to be through that chicane. You're waiting and waiting to get on the throttle. As you can see where you're going, and finally, once you get to the second part of that chicane, you can put your foot down and come up to yet another switchback. It's a cool track to get a bunch of these left-right sequences strung together, each one a little bit different than the last. Whoa, car running wide up towards the front. That's one of the yellow Caymans. I think that's Andy Kushner. He's pulling off to the side potentially has a cut penalty that he's trying to bleed off.
I would think so. He's a little bit slow here. Tsunoda's going to go the long way around at the exit of a corner. That got a little bit dicey, but he squeezes through. So does Derek King in the number 86. Jeremy Swenson up to 21st plus 10 positions in under 3 laps. That's pretty amazing.
Back up the road just a little bit. Jackson Robillard was all over the back bumper of Jackie Ding, but Ding is holding him off. 2 wheels in the dirt. Ding flinging it through the final corner and up onto the front straightaway to start lap number 3. As we're about 5 minutes into this 20-minute feature race.
Jackie Ding in that number 25. On the brakes, he's a little bit wide into the dirt in the braking zone. That's going to destabilize that car. The ABS doesn't like that. Robillard sees it. It smells blood in the water. Here he is on the back of that M4.
Yeah, look at that mid-engine Porsche rolling speed on the way in, and Jackie's still struggling to get the front end of that BMW up. Runs a little bit wide off the track slightly, and now Robillard takes the inside. Unfortunately, this becomes the outside for the next corner, but it's not going to matter. Robillard takes the position in the 98, and Ding will have to focus forward to try to get this position back, battling for 14th.
Jackson runs a little wide on corner exit. Ding got a great run here. Doors open on the outside. Jackson comes across. He overdrives just a little bit. Ding's going to sweep back to the left. Here he comes now on driver's left.
Might be able to do an over-under little moment here in this first of many chicanes on this track, but unfortunately, no. The mid-engine car puts the power down and pulls back ahead. Looks like we're also having a great battle up the road further with another couple of familiar names, Waxman and Oulton, still pinned together.
There they are up the road. From Walbaum on back, there's Santel, the Dirtfish car. Meanwhile, for 4th place, there's Paul Darling and Austin Cobb. In Cayman, there's a car way out wide in the dirt. Gathering it back up. Was that, who was that? Was that Matthew Morhart in the number 51? He had that car all over the place.
Yeah, that was a big ride, but he kept the point in the right way. And Rob Lucera is new to GT4 competition. We see him in other GRIDLIFE iRacers competition. Always, I think he actually won our
Quarantine Cup
in the MX-5s in the end of the winter last year. But new to the BMW, didn't get much practice, and he's just outside the top 5 here. Cayman's all over the top 5, but is still put in the front.
Jackie Ding lost some more ground. Here comes Johnson up the inside into the chicane, side by side. Has to give up the spot, jumps the curb. Now he's going to throttle back up and try to take the inside run at the final corner, turn 15.
Good courteous driving between those two. That's a great move from Johnson to get up into the top 15 there. And Jackson Robillard now gets a little bit of a breather.
For a moment, he's got a couple hungry M4s in behind him. Up at the front of the field, though, Kenton Cook is leading by almost a full second over Alessandrini. You talked about how the M4 will drop off, the Cayman will get better, but to what extent? Alessandrini's still over a half a second back. He's got only 7 laps to get there. Is that enough time?
It's on the bubble. He's got to be pretty much perfect from this point out. Mostly because you can pretty much expect the Cook will be pretty much perfect from this point out. So those top 2 are kind of right within the bubble of being competitive towards the end of this race. But right now, this group is super competitive. We're looking at the battle for, I think that's 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. Sorry, no, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Walbaum, Santel, Waxman, and now riding on board with James Houghton in the Cayman, struggling to find a way around these big BMWs.
I want to watch him as he comes out of the hairpin here. These Caymans just get such a good run off the corner. They rotate so much better, a much more nimble platform than the M4. Waxman's in a little bit hot. That's going to open up the door for Houghton. He's going to try to squeeze up the inside, and he will.
Luckily for Waxman, that becomes the inside for the next corner, and he uses the camber of the corner to throttle up the BMW and maintain the point, but Houghton's going to try to hold the outside. No, it's not going to work for him. That's the unfortunate position the Cayman is in, having a little bit smaller displacement, not quite enough power. Makes it tough to get around these big BMWs.
A little bit better in the brakes, though, I think. They're definitely... Oh, Waxman runs wide. It's going to open up the door. He's driving a little sloppy now, and that's going to let Houghton build a run here and overcome the advantage that the M4 has on corner exit.
Yeah, he's really feeling the pressure, and he's dropped off of the Santel Walbaum battle as well. But look at Houghton gets the inside through that little chicane. They're going to go mirror to mirror. Waxman lifts off, and actually a smart move, I think, just to tuck back in, take a deep breath, and try to rally this one because he was looking like he was struggling a bit.
Checking in, looking down the order to find Jeremy Swenson, who won the LCQ again, started 31st up to 19th, continues his climb, and up the road for 4th place. Here's Paul Darling, Austin Cobb, and Matt Corrence, nose to tail into turn 1.
So the teammates from Apex V2R have had a lot of success through this FCP Euro season. Further down the field than they'd like to be, probably working together just a little bit with trying to find a way around Paul Darling, who's a name we've seen quite a bit, but not a lot this season. like these Caymans are still struggling to keep up with Cook, who's continued to pull out now almost 1.5 seconds.
Having a look at the lap times here, he didn't have a recorded time last lap because he was a little bit naughty, ran wide. It won't record your times. I think actually to not record a lap time, you actually have to get a slowdown, I believe, for it in the race to not count the time. I think even if you cut, it'll record it. So Kenton has probably been a little bit aggressive with some of the apexes in the chicanes, I would think. But then again, Alessandrini doesn't also have it, so maybe I'm remembering that incorrectly. But LaRose is a full second behind Alessandrini. DJ is a second back from Kenton, so still lots of ground to make up, and it's only getting bigger right now. Last time by, Kenton ran a 2:03.567.
It stood out to me as I saw those fastest laps come through. Alex LaRose was actually just as fast as Kenton Cook last time through. Alessandrini lost a half a second, so the 54 car this week, typically the 61, struggling to maintain pace consistently, but he's still got a little bit of a buffer back to LaRose. We're about halfway through this event, which means the BMWs are going to start to fall off just a bit. It's not super dramatic. We may have overplayed that a little bit, but it is certainly something to deal with if you're in the cockpit of one of those M4s. The Porsche stays pretty consistent. Check this battle out. Ding, still a ton of pressure from behind.
Well, if you want to talk about the severity of tire fall off, when you watch Jackie Ding drive cars on the racetrack, he is not shy about sliding them around, and he makes time with it. But in time attack, you're going for a lap, maybe two. You don't have to worry about tire fall off. I think Jackie's driving this thing around a bit of a slide and burning up those rear tires. Now Vincent Cernuto, Derek King, and more are ready to pounce on that. Great run there by the 555 on corner exit. But look at Jackie just get that car going in a straight line. He looked like he was going to give up time on exit, ran out wide, and just drove off into the distance. But now Cernuto's in the slipstream down the front straightaway, sweeping across like we're watching the Indy 500 into turn one. The slipstream for Cernuto, bringing him right to the tailpipes up in front. There's Robillard and Johnston battling for 13th place.
Johnston looking racy, and he's around the outside now of Robillard. They're still side by side, and you can hold this in the BMW if you're willing to ride the slip just a little bit. And if you can cling around the outside, it becomes the inside for the next corner. It's not going to work. Maybe the over-under will, though. Nicholas Johnson trying to get a good run. He puts the foot down, and look at the power of the BMW. He might be able to show the nose.
He's going to look out to driver's left. Robillard's going to show. He's going to block him just a little bit. They're going to touch quarter panels into the corner, leave each other just enough space. That was fantastic stuff here, and Johnson pulls alongside.
That was awesome, and it's not over. He still has a little bit of camber help, and they're still side by side. Whoa, Robillard shuts the door. It absolutely does not want to get past. Pinches him down to the inside, and now we're going to go for one more round, boys.
Oh, they're going to touch.
Door.
Banging doors into the hairpin here. Johnson goes down the inside. Robillard, what an amazing move. Sweeps to the inside. Unbelievable stuff from Jackson Robillard, putting Johnson to school there in the hairpin, and now he drives off. But let me tell you something, the 43 is right there.
It was perfectly executed. Well, right on the limit of track limits there for Robillard, but keeps it on and feels still really defensive into this next chicane. Using all the curb on the inside, runs a little bit wide, but you can usually protect this one. Tries to get it checked back up, and unfortunately, he's got the longest straightaway on the track coming up. You're going to see that BMW start to close in ever so.
I wouldn't say slightly. It's coming with a head of steam now, like a rhino in the mirror. Now off to the left, door opens. He'll pull even with him. And if Jackson can hang tight here, that'd be pretty impressive. The M4s have been bullying here a little bit tonight, but Jackson's going to get jumped over the curb. I think they both made it now. Johnston's off course.
They made it, but they're not quick. Look at Jackie Ding and the rest closing up quickly. This is about to become a 7-car battle just outside of the top 10. But Robillard's still protecting with everything he's got in that Cayman. It's not looking like he's got the car under him, but he's absolutely got the moves. Now Johnston has the drag race covered down the front straightaway into the braking zone.
Banging doors again. Now the 43 pulls on through. Can Robillard cross him up? He's going to try here down through turn number 1. Going to pull even. No, he can't. Door gets slammed shut. Robillard back to 14th.
It's not all said and done, though. This is the section of the track where the Cayman is strongest. Unfortunately, that's a mistake from Robillard. A couple drivers spinning up ahead. Who is that coming back on the track? It looks like Matthew Waldbaum maybe had some issues and rejoins this battle.
Right in the middle of it.
Right in the middle of it, exactly. Robillard loses one position but gets a break. He's got a different red BMW in his mirrors now as Jackie Ding lost out to that recovering Waldbaum.
That was a wild lap of racing back here for about 12th to 15th spot. I thought the battle was going to be for the lead. Again, like the LCQs and like the brackets here in GRIDLIFE iRacers, the battle has been in the mid-pack, and that's where the meat of the stuff is. Jackie's a little bit off course. That brings Vincent Cernuto right back up to his tailpipes. And in the background, look at James Houghton all over the back of Marcus Luttrell.
Houghton's been clinging on. I almost thought that was Jeremy Swenson, but it's Derek King, I think, a little further up the field.
Look at this great line of race cars here.
Take a ride through the chicane, watch him pedaling throttle on the way in. Waiting, and then feeding throttle through this one. You want it to be flat, but it's just not. And look at the BMW on the back of Derek King showing the nose up the inside. That's Marcus Luttrell trying to take the position away. Almost gets it done. No, King holds the outside.
You can use the curbing here. Look at Houghton going to juke over to the right. You can use the curbing to help rotate the car. But it's so high speed there, and these curbs here are not short. They're probably 6-7 inches tall. You get up on them, they're going to rotate that car aggressively. And if you're not ready to catch the slide it creates, then you're going to find yourself in a bad situation.
Derek King in the black Cayman protects to the inside, covers Luttrell, but Luttrell deep on the brakes, goes in, maybe a little bit of a mistake. Derek King covers it, comes off the brake pedal. Jackson Robillard is a round up ahead.
Ding gets pulled off track with him. I wonder if there was maybe a relation to those two things. Let's have a look.
He was pretty well by himself. Deep on the brakes now, gets in a little bit early. Oh no, that was Waldbaum. Made a mistake. I think Jackson was trying to check up for some reason. Yeah, that was an awkward incident. I'm not quite sure what was going on there.
Have another look again. Robillard, I don't know what happened.
That's odd. Robillard checked up hard on the brakes coming out of that chicane. Almost looked at it like an intentional brake check or something, which would be really unfortunate. But Waldbaum heavy into the back and takes Jackie Ding down with all of them. This is the battle up for third, fourth, and fifth. Alex LaRose has run down, it's actually second down. DJ Alessandrini is now in the clutches of Alex LaRose. Darling and Cobb are all with them, so this is second, third, fourth, and fifth on your screen. And they are battling hard. They might have given up hope on catching Kenton Cook and decided to race to each other.
I told you Kenton's a pretty good race car driver. It doesn't matter if it's in real life or in the simulator. Kenton is so good. A quartet of Caymans, second through fifth, as you mentioned. But right now, I think Austin Cobb would like to make his way by the 155 of Paul Darling and set his sights on LaRose and Alessandrini. But Darling has been the mosquito in the ear for Austin Cobb. He has not been able to get him out of the way.
Well, and think back to Heat 1. Cobb was the one that made that awesome move. Wasn't afraid to throw the shoulder into it a little bit into this final chicane on the last lap to earn second place in that Heat race. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Cobb get a little bit racy as he seems to have the pace over Darling. But Darling's been protecting. LaRose has brought all of them back up to...
Whoa, 3 wide. Houghton on the outside. Luttrell's going to get turned in front of the 24 of Roberts. He's going to split him 3 wide with Jackie Ding. That was great driving.
That was well saved. And Luttrell in the blue and red car drops back to the back of this battle. The driver who was on pole for this race has worked his way back up into it. That was Christopher Roberts, who was in the Hoonigan car in the middle of all that. But look at this at the front.
Austin Cobb going to juke back to the left. LaRose on the right. Here comes Paul Darling looking for third place. He's got it across the nose of LaRose into turn 1. Now Cobb wants it. He looks driver's left. Not really a place to go. Darling and LaRose almost touch.
Still side by side through here. There's really no advantage to either side. It's just who's got the bigger, the better execution of the two corners, I should say. Look at Cobb now up the inside of LaRose. LaRose is going to inherit the inside of the next corner. Can he keep the nose in there in the 41? Yes, he does, but Cobb maintains the momentum, sweeps around the outside. He's going to take his teammate, Matt Corrins, with him.
Great run there for Matt Corrins in the number 42. He's going to pull alongside Alex LaRose. LaRose losing ground very quickly. Move the 42 car to 5th. LaRose still touches it. Oh, there's going to be a little bit of a squeeze. And the 41 runs off track, but the curbing saves him. He tucks back into 6th.
So LaRose, the big loser this lap. We are under 3 minutes to go. We should be white flag next time through for our leader. And now it's Alessandrini, Darling up onto the podium. Cobb and Corrins both picking up a position. Look at LaRose, though. He's feeling the pressure, wants to get back up there. Houghton looking racy. That's the battle we were just looking at. That has been chaotic the entire race.
Here's your pole sitter, the 24, Christopher Roberts. He led all the way about to the middle of sector 2, then looped the car around, fell all the way back to the mid-20s, and here he is climbing back up to 15th. He won like 14th or 13th, and up to 12th is in front of him here on the brakes up the inside of the 555, squeezes the car down onto the curbing.
Wow, good awareness from the 555 to open the door when Roberts made that last-minute lunge, and they make it through cleanly. The 555 will now have an opportunity. That's Vincent Cernuto. Still really close quarters between these two, but Roberts finally takes the position, and Derek King is going to try to get through in the black Cayman as well.
Jackie Ding's back there lingering as well. Look at Houghton, a big dive on the brakes under Waldbaum. That's not going to work. He's have to back out, try that again. That Cayman is a whole lot smaller physically than the M4. It can squeeze into spaces that you don't think it can squeeze into, but Houghton had to back out of that situation.
Smaller and more nimble, but Waldbaum in the red BMW maintains the point. Houghton's got a run on him, though. They're side by side through the kink, and now we've seen this multiple times. into the chicane side by side is super hairy, but I think it's actually going to work out in Oulton's favor. He closes the door.
Mr. Roberts has a good run on the 46, nowhere to go with it though. Up on the curbing, he'll dive up the inside. He's been really gutsy on the brakes. He's going to do it again here.
And don't forget, he was your pole sitter. He's been the fastest car tonight. This is the first time that anybody has dethroned Kenton Cook from any part of any session, and it was Christopher Roberts who did it. So that car is certainly one of the fastest on the track. He now sets his sights on the Valvoline Cayman of James Oulton, and this is still the battle for 12th.
White flag. The final lap for the race leader, Kenton Cook, was a 2.6 second lead. Some bumper cars down in turn number 1, a whole line of M4s and Caymans running nose to tail and kind of leaving each other's paint on the fenders and bodywork here tonight. Oulton trying to run away from Roberts. Waldbaum behind him, then Cernuto, King, Jackie Ding, Luttrell, Swenson, and more.
That is awesome stuff. I'm proud to watch this. Yeah, there's been some incidents, but for the most part, I'm seeing really respectful racing and really respectful recoveries for when there's maybe not so respectful racing. But we're watching this battle for 12th on down. James Oulton leads it way up the road, but he's got a ton of pressure from Christopher Roberts, who I suspect will throw everything at this one, almost into the back.
Oh, he did
move him.
There was definitely contact there. They're going to pull even now on the run down to the hairpin. The 24 lost some momentum though, Tom.
Yeah, and here comes Cernuto and Waldbaum both up around the outside. Roberts deep on the brakes, trying to maintain it. They swing into the banking. And there is Oulton, who's gaining a little bit of distance on now, has 2 car lengths on Roberts.
Derek King had a bit of a slowdown. He had to give up some time. Jackie Ding in 16th is closing in on this group of M4s and that leading Cayman of Oulton. Out in front, though, Kenton Cook through the chicane for the final time. He has done a phenomenal job all season long, but at home in the GT4 cars tonight, every race he looks at like a math problem, and he solves it and executes it to perfection across the line. Kenton Cook, he will sweep the GRIDLIFE iRacers FCP Euro Tour. Kenton Cook wins at the Nürburgring. DJ Alessandrini second, then Darling, then Cobb, or actually Matt Corrins, I think, stole the position away at the end. Then Cobb, LaRose, Morehart, Casera, Santel, and Waxman the top 10. Here's Johnson looking to the inside of the 27 for Waxman. He wants 10th place instead, and he'll go to it. There's going to be a drag race to the checkered flag here.
Oh, it's going to be super close. I think that start-finish line is the one we use, which means Johnston takes the position. They race to the second one just in case, but I'm pretty sure the BP car had that one covered. And now this battle that we stayed watching the entire time. Look at that. Christopher Roberts was able to get by James Oulton, and Waldbaum comes home third in that list of cars. Kenton Cook, victory donuts.
He beat everybody. He really beat him, Tom. I don't know how to say that.
Put his stamp on that one, and pretty surprised to see that the Caymans weren't able to keep up quite as well. Curious to hear from DJ Alessandrini, especially what ended up putting him back in the clutches of Paul Darling, who had nearly been able to join that battle for second place there at the very end.
Well, there was a big crash somewhere. Someone's driving off into turn 1 at Mach 5. But donuts for Kenton Cook. And leaving his mark on the Nürburgring. Well done by Kenton Cook. Let's have a look at your race results here for the final time this season. And we'll start out, of course, with Kenton Cook. Alessandrini in the Cayman just did not have the pace to go run up there with Kenton Cook tonight.
Yeah, Paul Darling bringing it home third. Matt Corrins, last-minute change between the teammates, gets up to 4th. Austin Cobb 5th. And then Alex LaRose, the final Cayman in that line before we get to Matthew Morehart. There in... something just popped up, actually. Morehart jumps up to 6th. Sarah, Santel, Johnston, and Waxman now being scored in the top 10. Did someone get disqualified?
Not that I can tell. Not that I can immediately see.
Okay.
But 11th place, Christopher Roberts. James Oulton up to 12th. Great run for him. Jackie Ding, 15th. That's pretty good considering the trials and tribulations that he had to deal with. And Jeremy Swenson from 31st to 17th. Good climb, avoiding all the mid-pack chaos. Good job for Jeremy Swenson. Mike Leader, 18th. Jackson Robillard will come home in 21st after the incident that he had. Kevin Lee, David Schwartz down there in the mid-20s. And here is the last page of drivers, the ones that didn't have quite the day that they were looking for. Drew Cleaver, Joseph Dale, Duncan James, Peter Zhang, Derek King. Derek King was running in the top 15 up until the last lap and had something go wrong, so he will finish unofficially in 35th place. We'll be back in just a moment to talk to your race winner and your podium finishers here in just a moment. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Back on GridLife Live for the conclusion of the GridLife iRacers FCP Euro Tour. Here with your GridLife iRacers FCP Euro Tour champion and three-time race winner, Kenton Cook, and number 35. Took him to school tonight, Kenton, and the previous 3 nights or 3 weeks as well. That was a phenomenal performance. So first of all, congratulations. And you didn't really see a whole lot out the mirror or out the windshield tonight, just a lot in the mirrors.
It was good fun. DJ, I don't know what happened to him in the feature, if he had some damage or something, but in the heat race he was on my butt, man. I was doing everything I could to keep him behind me, so he must have had some kind of damage or something from in the feature to not be able to be there. But it was good fun. Yeah, the last couple of weeks were good. It's nice to kind of change it up each week, to have different cars and whatnot. So yeah, it was good fun. Thanks.
I know that you're an avid iRacer and you're also a real-world competitor. This is not the typical car that you run in World Challenge, but do you think that having run the cars in real life has given you something that you can utilize in the sim to make you this faster, or are they two completely separate worlds that you have to kind of separate and treat a different way?
You know, it's actually, you know, the two do go hand in hand for the most part. But as far as, like, you know, there's little nuances on iRacing that you have to make sure you take advantage of to be able to have speed. So, you know, if you're not smooth in real life, you gotta smooth it out in the game. So the sim, but yeah, if you're harsh with your inputs, it's easy to overdo the limit of the tire, and then you're sliding from there. So just keeping the car on rails really is what you need to be able to do, and to have that feel is where that feel comes from the real world, to be able to keep it on the edge but not over it, because that's what's really slow, is if you're over it.
Well, Kenton, 3 race wins in 3 attempts and a championship on top of that. Congratulations. Thanks for joining us here, and we'll see you next time on GridLife Live.
Thank you.
Move on now to our second place finisher, DJ Alessandrini, who was chasing Kenton Cook the entire night but couldn't quite get there. DJ, we all know Kenton's really fast, but you're fast too, and couldn't quite get to Kenton tonight. So tell us about not only tonight, but the challenge of running him down all 3 rounds in this FCP Euro Tour.
Yeah, I mean, Kenton's pretty fast, as he put on display tonight, and I couldn't quite get him. I think I could have hung in his draft and maybe gave him something a little bit at the end, but I think we caught a lap car in like lap 2 or something, and he likes hanging out on the entry of Schumacher S's, so not ideal. And then basically once that gap kind of opened up, I was trying to get him, but it was like every little mistake where it's like, oh, that's a 10th there. It's just Kenton didn't do that mistake, and he kind of just drove away. But honestly, second place with this field, I feel pretty good about it. Obviously would have liked the win, but yeah, Kenton's he's pretty quick. He's kind of good at this. But I mean, I had a couple guys behind me, like Paul Darling, Austin Cobb, Alex LaRose. All those guys are super quick too. So to be able to finish ahead of them, I feel pretty good about that.
Well, DJ, it was a really strong run for you in all 3 rounds, especially this one, but Kenton is really good. We've noticed that. You're pretty good too, but just not quite good enough to get Kenton tonight. DJ, congratulations, a strong run, and thanks for helping put this together and make the FCP Euro Tour a success.
Yep, of course. I love fostering this great community we have with GridLife iRacers and GridLife itself. It's a great way to hang with your buds and meet new buds during the off season while we're all itching to get back to the real racetrack.
DJ, thanks so much for your time. We'll see you next time.
Yep, thanks, guys. You always do a great job.
Thanks, DJ. Well, I think that's going to wrap things up here for the GridLife iRacers FCP Euro Tour. Tom, let's kind of debrief. We started off this whole thing a couple weeks ago at Brands Hatch with the Audi RS3 TCR. Kenton Cook won there. Then we went to Oulton Park with the Volkswagen Beetles. That was a chaotic mess. Kenton won there. We went to the Nurburgring with GT4 cars. Kenton wins there. There's a common denominator in all 3 of those races, and also the common denominator is really solid, fun, entertaining racing.
Yeah, my favorite part about this whole experience, again, 4 European cars, 3 European tracks, themed for the FCP Euro Tour, and this is the first time we ventured into the model of changing it up every week and doing something a little different every week. You know, we had the fun rally car in the middle of two real-world touring car to start, a GT car to finish, and I really enjoyed watching that model. I got to participate in it a little as well. So I hope we keep doing that and keeping everybody not only on their toes but refreshed and excited to come back. And as you alluded to, a lot to look forward to in 2021 for the gaming community.
Oh, it's going to be a big, big year. Make sure that you're tuned in on www.grid.life/gaming. Check out the social media as well. You're pointing at me, Tom. What you got?
Well, if you missed it because you turn off the ads or something, we also announced the GridLife real world schedule today.
Yes.
So we played that teaser a couple times, but you can pull that video up. It's here on the GridLife YouTube channel and Facebook channel. And I believe that schedule is also on grid.life. So something like 10 events, pretty wide, a couple of new ones. We're coming to Kansas for the first time. We're going back to Texas. We're going all over the Midwest. So excited to have revealed that real world calendar, but stay posted to grid.life/gaming because we have more to announce for that too.
Absolutely, and thanks again to our sponsor for the series, FCP Euro. Of course, FCP Euro, every part you buy is guaranteed for life. A huge, huge thank you for making this whole thing possible. Again, my name is Kyle Heyer with Tom O'Gorman. We'll see you next time on Grid Life Live. In the gaming space, of course, we'll be back with you in the real world this season. I'm hoping Tom will be on the racetrack and I'll be in the booth, but we'll see how that pans out for next season. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Grid Life Live.
Welcome to FCP Euro. Here we are in the Motorsport Garage. This is where we house our two Volkswagen GTI TCRs, as well as our C300 Endurance Racer right behind me. Now, what's special about this space is this is actually part of our headquarters. So right to the right, we have our retail center where enthusiasts come in every day to come pick up the parts they need to repair their European car. And what's even better is right behind us is our distribution center. This is where thousands of packages are picked, packed, and shipped every single day to enthusiasts like you around the world. Now, this year has been a little different for us. Due to COVID, we've stayed safe and we've stayed here and we haven't participated in events. That said, we have tried to participate from afar, either digitally or dipping our toes into e-racing and other